I would like to talk to you about the digestive system and our gut health. The small intestine is responsible for the absorption of nutrients we eat. There are several phases to digestion. We ingest food and it goes through a mechanical process of digestion, secretion, absorption, and finally elimination. Once we put food in our mouth, it is torn apart to facilitate its movement through the digestive tract and enable enzymes to break it down for digestion. Liquid food does not need to be processed mechanically. During digestion, food is further broken down into smaller particles through a mechanical process with enzymes to ease absorption. Carbohydrates have no nutritional value until it is broken down by enzymes in the mouth and the small intestine into absorbable sugar and distributed to cells in the body. The point of digestion is where most gut dysfunction occurs. The secretion of water, enzymes, sodium, and acids from the digestive tract and granular organs is vital to digestion. Sodium secreted by the gallbladder and liver, acid from the stomach, and the compounds that stabilize the pH balance all work together with water from plants to make the process of digestion smooth. The process of absorption takes place in the small intestine, so it makes room for more nutrients as digestive molecules like vitamins, electrolytes, for example, potassium, sodium, and chloride, best gotten from coconut water, and water get into the digestive tract. The nutrients are moved to the liver where it is cleaned before it gets into the cells. Water-soluble items are transported into the blood through a carrier while fat simply passes through freely. Glucose and amino acids require active transportation and energy for absorption to take place. The final stage is excretion, which is the removal of waste through feces. Follow the Bristol stool chart to work out what is going on inside. Enzymes and acids are only used internally where needed and barred from the bloodstream by the GI digestive system. It also prevents bacteria from getting into areas of the body where it should not be, which triggers an immune response like SIBO, known as small intestine bacterial overgrowth. The digestive system protects your overall well-being of the cells and efficiency of the body system. The time it takes for food to digest, get absorbed, and eliminated symbolizes how efficient the digestive system is. It also depends on what the meal contains, your gender, stress level, and what medication is being taken or the person is on. Only combine food that works well together in the stomach for easy digestion. This will reduce bloating, constipation, gas, and give room for digestive healing. Low stomach acid also causes slow digestion. When the body is compromised, use the food combination steps to reduce stress. Digestion causes major stress on the body too. Follow this food combination for optimal digestion. For example, combine protein starches like beans and legumes with non-starchy vegetables. Combine your protein fat with other protein fat like nuts, dairy, and avocado. Animal protein with non-starchy vegetables like green leafy vegetables with protein. Grain and seeds with starchy and non-starchy vegetables like rice with starchy and non-starchy vegetables. Fruits should be eaten alone 30 minutes before any meal with fat that has fat and protein in it. Apple, for example, you can mix your apple, eat your apple with a nut butter. Your fruit in smoothie with fermented dairy. Nuts with fruits. Onto our gut health. There is a relationship between the gut and the brain. The digestive system, or digestion, makes the majority of our neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good hormone, GABA, glutamate, and norepinephrine. Gastrointestinal issues like intestinal bowel disease, leaky gut, intestinal permeability, bloating and extension, constipation or irregular bowel condition, even hormonal imbalance, candida overgrowth are all caused by gut dysbiosis and unnecessary use of antibiotics. There are physiological steps that have to take place for the gastrointestinal system to work properly. For example, chewing food, producing saliva. This triggers a lot of response by engaging the brain stem to activate the vagus nerves. We swallow, then the contraction of two muscles in the intestine. The food gets into our stomach and we need to release hydrochloric acid, which breaks down protein and creates an acidic environment for when food passes our stomach into the small intestine, which causes the gallbladder to contract, so we can release bile to break fat. The acidic pH causes the pancreas and the pancreatic enzymes produce enzymes to break down starches. If you're producing pancreatic enzymes, or if it is low, it causes bloating, not from protein, but from starch like rice and potatoes. Absorption and digestion. Motility is a process that is needed to digest food. If this physiological process is not resolved, probiotics will not help with leaky gut. Controlling diabetes and blood pressure medication reduces saliva production. Chewing is important for saliva to help break down food. If you have difficulty swallowing, probiotics are not going to help because you have not dealt with the root cause of the problem. Intestinal motility causes constipation. Floating stool is a sign of a neurological problem with the gut. Producing saliva, chewing, swallowing, and having food move from the esophagus to the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and then being eliminated. If this process is disrupted, it causes neurological problems, causing Parkinson's disease, slow movement, stiffness, cognitive stress. Constipation is a sign of neurological disease. You have to produce normal hydrochloric acid to set the stage for the physiological process of digestion. If you feel like you have a brick in your stomach, it means you have difficulty digesting protein. You notice bloating or even digestive difficulties. Hydrochloric acid, aside from breaking down protein to produce acidity, it also triggers the response of the rest of the gastrointestinal tract. Hydrochloric acid will create an acidic pH which will sterilize the rest of the gut, so you're less likely to have bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, and fight pathogens. The health of your microbiome is determined by how tight your gut junction is. Infection, if you have an infection, or the influence of your parents' genes. Diseases like thyroid or diabetes can also affect your microbiome. Environmental factors like stress and toxin also play a part on how our microbiome, how efficient they are in helping us fight diseases. If you are not tolerating protein very well, then you need hydrochloric acid to improve your digestion by working from the top of your system to the bottom to get a change in everything else. If you have an issue with fat, or if you eat anything fried or high in fat and you experience bloating, extension, then the gallbladder is not working well. This is called gallbladder sludge. It is the condition before gallbladder formation. pre-gallstone stage that happens in the gut. When the gallbladder gets sludgy, it is inefficient in releasing bile into the small intestine, and you need it to break down fat. You will experience bloating and extension that will cause burping after meals, after 10 minutes of having a meal. You have to understand what part of the north of the digestive system to the south is having a problem. If you have pancreatic, gallbladder, or hydrochloric issues, you are never going to fix the microbiome. No prebiotic would work. You need to break down food and release proper enzymes to get the right response. A lot of women have gallbladder issues. They stop eating fatty food because they cannot digest fast. Microvilli has to be healthy, or your microbiome has to be healthy to absorb nutrients. They are critical for healthy absorption of protein that are not digested and do not trigger any immune response. If the intestine is leaky, you will have a hard time taking probiotics to resolve gut issues. Diets high in sugar and carbs do not have vegetables, olive oil, fish oil, antioxidants, and flavonoids which support the digestive system. When a leaky gut is no longer an issue, you start to get to the microbiome. You need to have north to south working to get to the large intestine and microbiome. Most of the bacteria are in the large intestine, and the bacteria have enzymes which break down hormones. They can send messages to the brain. Bacteria are highly functioning organisms that have their own set of enzymes that maintain homeostasis or balance so we can have an ideal health. It can impact inflammatory states. People who are very ill have lost bacterial diversity, which is why they need to have food in plant fiber and fruits that can change the bacterial species in the gut. Always check to rule out H. pylori, which is a bacteria that resides in the stomach. It's not usually a problem if you were born with it. If it gets into you at the age of 35, it becomes a problem. The level of harm it causes depends on how much good bacteria you have. For example, an African strain of H. pylori in an African person is not a problem, but will be for someone from a different ethnic background and a thyroid patient. Focusing on nutrition will help get the ecosystem or your microbiome back in balance. If antibiotics are being taken to resolve this, pairing it with probiotic enhances the effect of antibiotics. Stool, breath, and blood tests can be used to identify the presence of IgA or GIG. If only IgM is elevated, it does not symbolize the existence of infection. Blood tests, however, will show antibiotics, which the stool will not if the bacteria does not shed eggs. Parasites take and give nothing back. H. pylori is also a type of parasite and have been found to help the gut at times. Most adults have Epstein-Barr virus, which also becomes an issue when the immune system or stress, when going through things like trauma or poverty, it causes it to reactivate. Although antivirals can also treat parasites and bacteria, it has not proved to help with autoimmune conditions. Fermented food populate the gut bacteria for protection from cardiovascular, neurodegenerative, or inflammation. Fermented food or probiotics help with serotonin, the happy hormone. Do not jump to the microbiome. Remember to start from the north of the digestive system to the south. Fix your lifestyle to solve gallbladder issues, which releases bile to break down fat. Taking gallbladder out, the system gut canal patches out and forms a small gallbladder, and the symptoms persist. So basically, taking gallbladder out sometimes may not really resolve the problem. You will not have gut optimization in your colon until the gallstone is removed. As you get older, you will need more hydrochloric acid. Low hydrochloric acid in young people is caused by a bacteria called H. pylori, like I mentioned. Also, patients have H. pylori infection and the hydrochloric acid shuts down or is shut down. If you have if you take hydrochloric acid and it burns, it's a sign of ulcer. Taking apple cider vinegar, a couple of spoons of it, if it burns, then if you feel no burn, it's said that there is no ulcer present. Not as efficient if you're using hydrochloric acid. There are certain things in protein food that people may be intolerant to that causes inflammation. This includes things like gluten, casein in milk, albumin in egg white, corn and soy may be because of GMOs in it. Nightshades are some of the things that people are allergic to. Things like eggplants, tomatoes, and sweet peppers. Even their seeds too, like that make spices like paprika. Lectins in legumes like beans, nuts, and seed. You may want to consider eliminating these from your diet to see if it helps improve your gut health. I will do other audios to talk about food craving and how our body. I will do another audio to talk about a second part of our gut health, which would include talking about things like food craving and how we can curb it. I really do wish you well on your healing journey.